Okay.
Caradus said earlier.
All right. Game 4 out of 5 of my first 5 of my top 50 games in alphabetical order on PlayStation Plus Extra. I know how to talk. Don't laugh at me. On PlayStation Plus Extra is Bloodborne. Now, the people who know me are like, man, you shit on Bloodborne a lot. How did this end up in your top 50? And the reason is because I wanted Code Vein to be number 5. In alphabetical order, something had to take up that spot. That ended up being Bloodborne. That being said, Bloodborne is an okay game. It came out like right after the good Souls games, like Demon Souls and Dark Souls. It was the first time that they took out half of the content of the real good Souls games, like all the magic systems and stuff. And then they came out with this half a game as an experiment to see if people would actually play the game. And then people played it and was like, man, I really like paying for less content. And so then you had Sekiro and you had all these other games born off the back of Bloodborne. All that being said, Bloodborne's not a bad game. Any Souls game's probably going to be at least decent. And that's where Bloodborne kind of falls in the decent category. Now, you might be saying, why isn't it a good game then? And the reason is when you first get to a boss, not after you've learned it and after you've leveled up your weapons and all this bullshit, but when you first get there, you can either spend hours fighting every boss, or you can do the parry attack, which takes 25% of its health. That's boring combat. All the other Souls games, you can go in, you can choose to parry, you can choose to use magic, you can choose to use melee. They're all equally effective. Bloodborne flipped that on its head and said, hey, if you want to effectively fight the boss, parry and win. So, in my opinion, not the best Soulsborne game. But when it comes to the top 50 in PlayStation Plus Extra games, it still ends up ranking, even though it's not great. So, there we have it. How do you guys feel about Bloodborne?
I love how he enthusiastically calls Sabian's favorite game a piece of shit.
Hey,
Basically, yeah.
he set
I'm
it
gonna
up for
let
that
y'all.
with all his bullshit right before we started recording.
I'm gonna let y'all fight. But Cole got something to say about Bloodborne before I get into Caradus.
I mean, I always thought that it looked interesting. I never played it, but I'm excited to get started on it. That's
I
all I got to say.
I vowed to myself and to my future generations behind me and in front of me, everybody. I vow to everybody. The hell I went through with Dark Souls 3, I'll never play another Souls game. Never again. I am done. I bought Elden Ring, played half an hour, returned it. Some might say, Mr. Five, maybe it's because you're not intelligent enough to play a Souls game. And the answer to that question is, you are right. I am not intelligent enough. I got lost in the first 30 seconds. I had no clue where the fuck I was going. And with any of these games, whether it's half content, more content, green jacket, gold jacket, who gives a shit? I'm still gonna get lost.
That's fair. They do not tell you where to go. That's a fair argument. Almost all the Souls games are like that. It's like, well, you're in the world. Good luck, boys.
In Fife's scenario, I will say that's kind of the premise of the game. It's a game that doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't tell you where to go. It's supposed to be, in essence, not linear. Now, Demon Souls, I do think, is a very linear game. Dark Souls kind of, that was Demon Souls being the first one of starting that trend in the IP. But Bloodborne, as Curious already have shitting on basically. Bloodborne is one of my favorite all-time games. And everything that Kira said is just straight up false. I'm like, he said half content or anything like that. I think, especially if you're talking about the DLC, it's pretty much, I would say it's a full-fledged game. You don't have to worry about buying a whole bunch of extra content that was already pre-made in the game that they decided to hold off. There's no season passes and all that, but still, story, combat, atmosphere, everything, I give it one of the greatest games of in current gen or previous gen like history. And it might be a little bit biased. I am a Bloodborne, Soulsborne fan, as you will, but the idea that I wasn't just cheesing my way through just sitting back spell casting or super range, although you can do some of that in Bloodborne. I think Caradus might have took a little bit away from that because it's not, if it take you an hour to beat one boss, you just need to get good. You just suck. Maybe Bloodborne is not the game for you.
I was waiting on you to get done so I can say, is it true that you fight bosses for a fucking hour? A half hour.
Okay,
Is it a half hour?
I said half an hour, but
You did.
since we're in this segue, I don't even want to cut off Savius while he was lying blatantly to our viewers. I didn't want to cut him off while he was doing that. However, since we have a little excerpt here, I will say, there's tons of different ways to use magic that is not cheesing your way through the content. That's just silly. Number two, would you agree or disagree that if you do not use your first time fighting a boss, if you don't use the parry mechanics, it takes significantly longer?
No.
So you just, okay. Well, there you have it, folks. If you've ever played the game, you already know the actual answer to that. And I don't even need to continue. So there we go.
What I'd like to say is, I'm not saying these games are bad, just not for me. I enjoy watching other people play them on YouTube.
Yeah, some games are better to watch. I actually, to say that maybe I suck at the game, which is hilarious. I've played literally every Souls type game except for I played half of Bloodborne, and then when I realized in order for the game to work right, you had to parry everything, and I stopped caring. And I didn't play Sekiro because at the time I was broke. But every other game, Wolong, well, I don't want to spoil the next game coming up, but literally every game, I've never had any issue with the game. I've played through all the games.
I just don't think you're an authority to speak on this game over Savior.
I've played through every Souls game effortlessly. I've never had a problem playing the games. I beat Elden Ring like 40 times. I beat Demon Souls, Dark Souls several times. I can play Souls games. I don't have an issue with difficult games. That's all I want.
Listen.
You defending yourself. I never said you suck. I just said if it takes you an hour to beat a boss, maybe you suck.
It was implicit. So I just
bro, Mr. Fife and his opinion don't matter. Mr. Fife like Ghost Rider.
That's fact.
Caradus said Caradus only like one Resident Evil out of the
I didn't say it was a
I
bad
never
game.
once said that. How dare you?
I just said it's not for me.
I did say it's not for him. So
having him say it's not for me is like somebody saying that they eat shit and saying steak just not their thing. Like
you just want me not to say anything?
Well, Ghost Rider is shit. Like the analogy was good. I don't agree with it, but it was a fair analogy.
Ghost Rider, bro. If you died and I went to your funeral, I will remind myself that you like Ghost Rider to keep me from boo-hooing.
I hate
Actually, Cobra. Rewind what just happened.
Oh,
rewind what just happened. Rewind it. No, it don't even have to be that far back. The monster, it wasn't even a boss. It was just a regular monster. I just happened to look up and see it. I was like, that's fucking hilarious.
What he was having a hard time beating him?
No, it was like this chubby monster he was fighting.
The game looks good. Kind of like what Mr. Fife said a minute ago. Like I think that's why I haven't played this game, because I love watching people play it.
When they if they ever come out with like the remastered version, I'll probably play it again. But actually, Wolong had the same problem. It was like you can fight through the bosses. It takes fucking forever. Or you can parry the monster's big attacks, and then it takes almost no time at all. And I don't like being shoehorned into one playstyle. Like that's one of the things I like about like the Souls type games. You get to play it however you want.
What was
So-
that one game y'all
In
talking?
Bloodborne, you can play it however you want. It doesn't take, you don't have to be the one trick pony or you have to parry your bosses in order to beat them. And it still doesn't take a half an hour long to beat bosses.
I said a half hour to exaggerate the point.
Well,
takes
I'm
significantly
exaggerating
longer.
the point. It
It
does
takes
not take
significant. We'll see
significantly
it. Whenever he gets back to that
longer.
dude, like that was the perfect example. That's why I wanted to show it. Like as soon as he gets to
That's
that
just
chubby dude.
one approach
Mhm.
to beating that monster.
Mm.
Like you said, it's not a boss. It's just one
Damn.
approach. You can use one style of parry and counter. That's one approach. Yes. You can also brute force your way, which is really not significantly longer than the parrying and countering approach.
Next game.
Chubby dude. No,